Here today. We're recognizing a number of people that are in the audience. Some will be participating in today's bill signings, starting with Senate President Ben Albritton. We also have Taylor Hatch, who's our Secretary for Department of Children and Families. We have the Vice Chairman of the Board of Trustees at USF, Mike Griffin. We have Senators Rouson and Bradley from the Florida Legislature, Representative Nan Cobb from the Florida House of Representatives, and then Cindy and Dennis Murphy, as well as Cody and Colton Murphy, and you'll hear about that legislation momentarily. I also want to recognize, I saw Senator Jay Collins is here, who's the senator from this area. Jay was kind of the forward deployed Florida asset for the rescues that we helped effectuate in Israel after the IDF operations against Iran and the Iranian missile barrage. And so the state of Florida, using our Division of Emergency Management, coordinating with partners, and Jay was on the ground for that, got over 2,000, mostly Floridians, but also other Americans, safely out of Israel during a very difficult time. Now there's a ceasefire. We'll see if that sticks. Hopefully it does. But for the week to 10 days, 12 days that there was a hot conflict, the airport was closed. It's not the easiest part of the world to navigate around. If you leave Israel's borders, you're not necessarily, just walking down Main Street. It can be tough. And this was a lot of challenge logistically for the state of Florida. Now, we had done similar rescues after October 7th, 2023 from Israel during the Hamas conflict against Israel, and that was obviously challenging. We've helped rescue Floridians from Haiti when we've had instability down there, which is challenging too. I think this one was probably the most difficult. There was a lot of roadblocks in the way, and we were able to do it. So I want to thank Senator Collins for leading it out there. I want to thank the Florida Division of Emergency Management and everybody who's been involved. But I can tell you, when we met with some of the folks last week coming into Tampa Airport, they didn't know necessarily where to turn. And I think the state of Florida has shown, we've got your back. We'll make it happen. And so we did. And so that was a huge relief to a lot of people. A lot of students over there, college students, folks on trips, young people, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old folks, but also some families. And so if you're caught in a situation like that, that's difficult. But when you start mixing in a 6-month-old baby, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, it just takes on a whole different dimension. And the desire to be safe and to get out of harm's way is so much more stronger as a parent when you're looking out for your kids. And so it was a very successful mission. Now that the airport's back open, there's a ceasefire. We're not actively conducting any operations. Who knows what happens in the future, although I do think now people recognize that, hey, there could be some complications. I think that's probably something that may be on people's minds going forward. But job well done, and to have over 2,000 people, that's really, really meaningful. So thanks everybody that's been involved. Now we're here today to talk about Florida's additional efforts on mental health and substance abuse. And we've done a lot in Florida over the last many years. In 2021, for example, we launched the Resiliency Florida Initiative, first in its nation approach created to provide students with the resources and skills necessary to overcome life challenges. And part of that was removing the stigma from needing mental health support. And that's been something that's been really, really significant. We're also proud of the wide variety of services we now offer to help Floridians of all ages overcome mental health challenges in order to lead self-sufficient, happy lives. In 2023, Florida's network of providers assisted more than 100,000 individuals as they navigated their unique mental health needs and helped to prevent the need for more intense levels of care. We also built a state emergency hotline, 988, which has helped to resolve 96% of cases without escalatory measures like hospitalization or EMS response, and has recorded 0 suicide deaths amongst the callers to date. We've also provided a series of grants to cover financial gaps for homeless families or those at risk of falling victim to homelessness with specific accountability measures in place. And these grants, including over $85 million in 2021, support shelter operations, rental and mortgage assistance, utility assistance, rapid rehousing assistance, and transportation costs. Partially due to our actions, Florida's homelessness rate is 22% less than the national average. And you see places like San Francisco and LA where their policies encourage more homelessness. I think our policies are trying to discourage that, and part of that is offering the support. We have some of it is also holding people accountable, quite frankly. And you look, people have been asking me about this New York City Democrat mayor primary, and because look, I'm not asking for anybody to come here, okay? We've got a big state. We got 23+ million people. I mean, just 5 or 6 years ago, we had like 21 million people. We've got 3 or 4 million more people than New York State does now. And they were the most populous state for a large part of American history, but then even, in the last 30 years, they were more than us. And so, and I'm not like running around like begging businesses to move. Most of them move on their own because they think Florida's got a lot to offer, and we do. But the reality is, and look, this is not the actual election, it's the primary. But when you win the Democratic primary in a 6-1, 7-1, 8-1 Democrat city, you have a great chance, obviously, to win. And people say, but all this stuff matters to Florida because when Chicago goes south, then people, all of a sudden, you see all these people showing up in Naples. When New York City, and that during de Blasio, a lot of people got out. And that's why Palm Beach and Miami, and you see all this stuff. So there is an impact, and so I watch these things because I do know it will affect the state of Florida. Not that I'm asking for it to, or not that we're wanting it to, but when you have a candidate who wants to abolish the NYPD, who says, well, we're not going to send police into these high crime areas. We're going to send social workers. That ain't going to end well. I'm just telling you right now. And so, and I'll tell you, we have a program in Florida where we give $5,000 recruitment bonuses to police officers who join either our sheriff's departments, our local police departments, or even our state law enforcement agencies. And we've had a lot of people come down from NYPD over the years. What do you think is going to happen if this guy becomes mayor? He wants to abolish NYPD. So you're going to see a lot of people take advantage of that. Now, I know Senator Albritton was supportive of funding that bonus program in the budget. Again, we've done it now for a number of years, been wildly successful. If this guy gets in, we may need to up that. I mean, because you're here. I mean, there's just going to be a flood of people, and these are good folks. They're very, very public oriented, and they want to serve the public. But it's like, to have no support. And he not only wants to do that, he wants to eliminate cash bail. Here's what bugs me about these things. I disagree with it, obviously, but it's like, this isn't the first rodeo with these bad ideas, right? People have tried them. They have failed. They have failed in places like San Francisco. They failed in Chicago. They failed. Some of these things have been tried like in New York City. And to say like, we're going to make sure that like the government takes over grocery stores so you get cheaper food, that's not going to work. We know that that's not going to work. To try to say that you're going to, not have jails or not have prisons, like we know that that is not going to work. And so, it's frustrating to see because this isn't like these are new ideas, right? These are ideas that either when they've been tried have failed, but usually they don't have enough political support to even get over the goal line to even be implemented because people understand that that's not the way to do things. So we're anticipating, depending on what happens in November, there will be impacts, I think, in Florida. At a minimum, I think you're going to see some of these police officers say, why am I wearing this uniform and putting myself at risk when you have a mayor that doesn't even believe our job should exist, doesn't believe these people should be held accountable for the crimes? That's a huge, huge problem. And I'll tell you, when we had basically 2 or 3 years in Florida, we probably had a decade's worth of migration. part of it was what we had to offer, but a lot of it, people were fleeing really bad policies, and public safety was like #1 on their list. You could talk about no income tax, you can talk about good business environment, you could talk about, lack of COVID, restrictions, you could talk about education. All these things are important, but that was #1. And so what I see them doing is potentially really rolling the dice. I was a big critic of de Blasio when he was mayor, and I think the guy that they nominated has the potential to be much, much worse than even de Blasio. But I digress. So here we are today. We have reduced homelessness. We're 22% less in homelessness. Part of that is support, but part of it is also accountability, and I think you got to do both. But we want to keep the momentum going. So today I'm going to sign Florida Senate Bill 1620, which implements key recommendations made by Florida's Commission on Mental Health and Substance Abuse Disorder. Now, some folks are going to be talking about the bill a little bit more in depth, but I think that this is the product of people really looking and trying to see what goes on in this space, and not only just in Florida, but looking around the country to see what's worked or not worked, and then offering recommendations about how we can do a better job. And so you're going to see a lot of things, I think, that'll be very, very positive. So I want to thank folks who were involved with that. I think this helps build a system to try to prevent the worst crises from occurring in the first place. And a lot of times when you have really serious crises, there's a buildup to that if you did have some support earlier on, probably could have been avoided. And I think the fact that our hotline has had X number of people and not had the suicides tells me that that's something that really, and you end up in the situation where people aren't being heard or they don't have any support. We're also signing Senate Bill 168, which is called the Tristan Murphy Act. And this grew out of Tristan Murphy was a young man. He had schizophrenia, paranoia, and delusions, but he was not provided the mental health care that he was really in dire need of when he got involved with the criminal justice system. And, he committed, crimes, but they weren't necessarily, violent crimes. You didn't necessarily have a victim on kind of what he was doing, an automobile, some other stuff like that. The reality is it is what it is, but he got passed around in the justice system. There really wasn't a pathway to have a mental health intervention, which may have ended up being much better had they done that. And so this led to a tragedy in 2001 on a work detail. Tristan committed suicide. And so this is something that probably there would have been a good chance that would have been mitigated or that he wouldn't have even attempted that had there been some mental health intervention. And so under this bill, counties and municipalities are going to be able to establish misdemeanor mental health programs, as well as pretrial felony programs, so that if people are in the justice system and they have these particularly really significant mental health afflictions, that we don't think that somehow just putting them in jail is going to fix that. That is not going to fix those problems, and people need to be held accountable, but you also have to provide support in ways that will actually address the problem. And so this is something that sheriffs, courts, and treatment providers will have a clear process. They're going to be able to provide people in programs that are going to help them. This bill expands criminal justice, mental health, and substance abuse reinvestment grant program to include a new focus on veteran treatment court programs and on emergency responder training. And for the first time, this bill requires mental health evaluations for individuals with a history of incompetency adjudications before they're placed on probation and returned to society, which have functioned as a loophole. So I want to thank Ben Albritton for really leading the charge on this. I know this is something that he was very passionate about. This provides tools, and I see Sheriff Permel here, and the head of the Sheriff's Association. I said, are you guys going to use this? They said, absolutely. This is going to be something that is going to be good. And I think if you talk to a lot of people in law enforcement, and obviously you have a lot of really dangerous criminals that just need to be kept off the street, but a lot of people that interact with the justice system, the root cause is not that they're bad people trying to harm others, it's that they've got a lot of mental health problems that are leading to behavior that is antisocial. And so to the extent that we can do that and identify that and potentially provide solutions for that, that's going to ultimately be better for taxpayers, it'll be better for the entire justice system, and it'll be better for the safety of our community. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved with that. I also want to thank, we have Senator Darrell Roos on here, who is the state senator from, he has, do you have this? Is this in your district or no? Okay. So he's got St. Pete and parts of Tampa, and he's had a huge focus on mental health and substance abuse policies throughout his time in the Florida legislature. And so in honor of his service to the state of Florida on this subject, I'm pleased to announce that we have worked together with both the Florida Senate and the University of South Florida to officially name the Florida Mental Health Institute the Senator Darrell Roos Center for Substance Abuse and Mental Health Research. The Florida Mental Health Institute is the largest behavioral health services research center in the U.S. and conducts applied research to improve services and outcomes for individuals with mental, addictive, and developmental disorders. And we're very happy to see this, and we're proud that Darrell has been an example of overcoming substance abuse, but also has been very passionate about helping others who may be in similar predicaments. And so thanks to everybody who's been involved with all these initiatives. I know there was, they were trying to get this into statute, and there was a little bit of a hiccup on that, but it was a period, a lot of hiccups, but just the way it is. So, but nevertheless, we're happy that we were able to work together with the Senate to get this done, and thanks to USF for also working with us on this. So we're going to hear from some of the speakers. So we'll start with Ben Albritton. Come on up.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Well, that was very kind. Thank you. Thank you. What a great response. Governor, first of all, I want to say a couple of comments. Florida leads. That's who we are. Florida legislature, this governor, we lead. We look for opportunity to solve challenges, even the most difficult ones, right? You got to run to those fights. You've got to really understand what's going on and not look at it on the outside, but to really dig in and try to understand what's really happening and what are the real solutions that we can bring forward. Because at the end of the day, what we're all about is we want Florida to continue to lead. We want Florida to take these challenges seriously. And we want Florida to continue to be the best state in the country. Thank you for your work and your leadership, Governor. Second of all, and I don't know how you get worse than de Blasio. I don't know. Wow. Well, that's a big statement, sir. Big statement. About the Tristan Murphy Act. Oh, first of all, before I get into that, listen, if you're within the sound of my voice, and the governor, you did not mention this, but if you want to move to the free state of Florida, we will happily take you here. This state's the best place in the country to live, not just because of the weather, because of the people, the culture, and the fact that we take law and order seriously here. We take freedom seriously here. This is the best state in the country. So you are welcome here. Rural Florida would love you, by the way, to come spend time with us. Tristan Murphy Act. First, I want to thank Jim DeFeedy. He's a newscaster down in Miami, and he did a documentary on Tristan called Warehouse, I think is what it was. I've watched it, I don't know, 8 or 10 times. And I would encourage each of you and anybody out there to take a look at that. Jim's the first person that told me about Tristan. It's the first place I heard it. And I want to thank him for that, because his leadership on this particular issue has been invaluable. The second is I want to thank you, Bill, Sheriff Permel. You and I have had a lot of conversation about this topic, and I want to thank you for your leadership, not just on the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Council, Now, you led that a couple of years ago, but I want to thank you for your tireless work in trying to make a societal wrong a right. And that's a big deal. It's an honorable pursuit. I think that those kind of things makes God smile. That's a big deal. And Cindy and Dennis, I don't know where to start. I guess maybe I should just leave it at this. I am better today knowing you. Thank you for your tireless efforts to make a difference in a very hard space. If Tristan was here, I believe he'd be proud of the work that the two of you have done and the legislature's done. Thank you for your support on this issue, Governor. This space is hard. It is hard, but it's worth running to the fight. There are people today in Florida that are suffering that could just use a hand up. It's not a hand out. Use a hand up. For us to show that this is in us, right? That bring out the best in us and share that with folks that are challenged and folks that are struggling. Today's a big day. Congratulations to the two of you. And I want to thank everybody involved. I am so incredibly thankful that today we can have honest dialogue about mental health. Honest dialogue. And 10 years ago, it was taboo. But today, we've broken the seal on this conversation. This bill today, both of these bills, is a prime example of what we can do when we summon ourselves. And we run to the fight. It's a prime example. And I would encourage everybody within the sound of my voice, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to speak out. Everyone needs an advocate. If you know somebody that's struggling with mental health challenges, run to that fight with them, right? Run to that fight with them. It's a big deal. So anyhow, I love you guys. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today, and thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Good morning. It is an honor to be here in Tampa and to be on the beautiful campus of University of South Florida alongside so many inspirational leaders and people in this room. My name is Taylor Hatch, and I have the privilege of serving under the leadership of our great governor as the Secretary for the Department of Children and Families. And thanks to the steadfast leadership of Governor DeSantis, as well as the First Lady, and with the strong support of the Florida legislature, our state continues to champion access to critical mental health services through both significant investments in funding as well as legislation. By engaging our partners and our stakeholders and Floridians directly, we are continuing to develop and strengthen innovative approaches to behavioral health care, as evident by the two pieces of legislation the governor is signing into law today. Said so well by the passionate leadership of Senator Bradley a few months ago, and reinforced through the incredible leadership of President Albritton, who we just heard from a moment ago. Senate Bill 168, sponsored by both Senator Bradley and Representative Cobb and championed by others, also known as the Tristan Murphy Act, aims to bring comfort to families with loved ones with mental illness that worry about their loved one having an interaction with the criminal justice system. More specifically, the legislation expands the use of community-based mental health services for individuals living with mental illness who are involved in the criminal justice system. Utilizing proven models, the bill prioritizes enhanced treatment and training. It expands mental health diversion options when appropriate and supports alternatives intended to be utilized at the earliest moment possible, such as Florida's assertive community treatment teams, which has demonstrated a 99% success rate in diverting individuals from state mental health treatment facilities. Would also like to echo President Albritton's thoughts. Thank you to Tristan Murphy's family who are here today for sharing your story and turning pain into purpose. As a state, we remain committed to accelerating strategies that work, reevaluating those that do not, and pursuing solutions that are measurable, that are practical, and accessible across our great state. An example of this is also through the work of the Commission of Mental Health and Substance Use Disorder that you heard a little bit more about earlier. Since its inception, the Commission's work has helped shape the direction of mental health policy in our state by providing actionable recommendations as further evident by Senate Bill 1620, sponsored by the transformational leader that is Senator Roussan, who is also here today that we celebrate, who pushes tirelessly for a person-centered approach and supports and lifts up the importance of peer and mentorship to provide tangible resources to support Floridians. This legislation addresses several key changes and opportunities to set individuals up for success, maximize collaboration in key moments and settings, and improve the state's ability to utilize behavioral health data to measure outcomes and identify future opportunities. More specifically, this legislation addresses the challenge many individuals with serious mental illness face in taking daily medication by expanding the use of long-acting medications backed by data that supports an 89% increase in medication adherence while reducing acute episodes of illness. This investment offers individuals a better path towards stability, towards recovery, and quality of life. It also helps to sustain the 20% decline in Baker Acts that we have seen as a state in the last 5 years. Building upon the success and existing models like the mobile response teams, which provide critical on-demand crisis services in schools and other settings, that helps divert 80% of individuals from falling into further crisis, Senate Bill 1620 strengthens collaboration amongst key partners by requiring the Department of Children and Families, DCF, and the Department of Education to jointly review and assess effective school-based behavioral health models. And finally, another important element of Senate Bill 1620 is the work towards the creation of Florida's first behavioral health data repository, which will be developed in partnership with the Commission and key stakeholders. This resource, along with the establishment of the research center that we have here at UCF, we're going to talk about more today, will improve the state's ability to monitor outcomes, identify trends, and align behavioral health services with broader criminal justice reform efforts as well. In summary, there is so much to be proud of as a Floridian, and as a department, we are deeply, deeply grateful for the prioritization of investments and supports that are spearheaded by the leaders that are in this room today and many others, driven by the people that we serve and reinforced utilizing data. Together, we're building a future where every Floridian has access to the supports that they need to live with dignity, to live with hope, and to live with purpose. Through strategic action and compassionate leadership, we are creating a behavioral health system that doesn't just respond to crisis, but empowers individuals to thrive. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor, President Albritton, Senator Roussan, Senator Bradley, my Senator Collins, Secretary Hatch, distinguished guests. On behalf of the University of South Florida Board of Trustees, President Law, and all of us at USF, welcome. It's great to have you here. And I have to mention, Governor, for your leadership, we are home to the best education system, higher education in the entire country. It's because of this man right here and his incredible leadership. But we're also standing in the heart of our College of Medicine, our Morsani College of Medicine, under the leadership of Dean Lockwood. We're one of only 16 public or private Tier 1 medical schools in the entire United States of America. And what does that mean to us? That means innovation. That means solving critical challenges in our communities, and it means impacting lives for the better. I'm just delighted to be here to share a little bit about USF's role in this journey. We've been a leader in this space for many, many years. We're one of the state's founding partner institutions in the behavioral health teaching hospital with our friends at Tampa General Hospital. And we're also the only SUS institution with a college dedicated exclusively to these disciplines, the USF College of Behavioral and Community Sciences. And we're also home to the Lou Delapart Mental Health Institute and the newly created Florida Institute for Behavioral Health Workforce. And Governor, I know you shared this great news about honoring our great Senator Roussan, and you know, Dean Sarovich and I and the President and all of us are going to be working very closely together to ensure that this institute reflects your legacy, and as we prop up and help the members of our great community. Will Weatherford, our chairman, and I are going to be personally co-sponsoring this board action, and we'll have you back for that moment. But at the end of the day, you know, the University of South Florida is where you come for solutions, is where you come for action, where you come for impact. And before I just wrap up, I was inspired by President Albritton's comments, and so I lost my little sister last year to substance abuse and mental health. And you know, Katie was a good person, you know, and I just share that this challenge is everywhere. It's on the doorsteps of every household in this state and in America. And I say her name, and I share that because I'm proud of her. You know, and her fight was a fight every day. But knowing that we have a governor, knowing that we have a legislature, knowing that we have a university, and candidly, just a great community of people that care, they're going to help those that need our help. And it's not necessarily a hand up, but it's a lift up, and letting them know that there are resources available, and that there's an opportunity to improve their life. And, you know, to the Murphy family and to others, I just, you know, you're here for all of us. You're here for all of us that have had these challenges. And I believe that this legislation will absolutely change the lives of people that are hurting. It'll help the families that are hurting with them, and it's going to save lives. So, Governor, I thank you for being here. I'm just very inspired by your leadership and everyone in our great state. And I know that our best days are still yet to come. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Carol?
27 years, 3 months ago, when I woke up in Hanley Hazelden Treatment Facility, I will never forget the day I asked for help. The hopelessness, the loneliness, the anger, the fear, the deep gut rage, the gift of desperation. The bottom was my gift of desperation. I became desperate to change, and whether I believed I could or whether I believed I couldn't, I knew I was right. I'm very honored to be here today, very honored for this honor that has been bestowed upon me. And I thank everyone who had a part of keeping this well-kept secret. When Senate President Kathleen Passidomo appointed me to the Commission on Mental Health and Substance Use Disorders, I said I didn't want to serve on another commission that just writes a report and gathers dust on a shelf. I wanted to be part of something that would lead to real, lasting change. Governor, today with your signing of Senate Bill 1620, that change is taking root. This legislation is a direct result of the hard work of the Commission. It turns thoughtful recommendations into real policy. It will ensure that Florida continues to be a leader in how we treat people living with mental illness and addiction, not just in moments of crisis, but across the entire continuum of care. This bill increases the accessibility of long-acting injectable medications for patients being discharged from mental health facilities, helping ensure continuity of care and reducing the risk of relapse. It strengthens crisis response teams, especially for Florida's growing senior population. It prioritizes school-based behavioral health through telehealth and updated assessments, and it seeks to expand short-term residential treatment options for children and adults alike, particularly in communities like Hillsborough and Pinellas, where the need is so great. And it requires a deep look at publicly funded mental health and addiction services, asking tough but important questions. Are the services we're paying for reaching people, and are they effective? That work will be led right here at the Louis Delaparte Florida Mental Health Institute at the University of South Florida. As part of this legislation, the Institute will produce a statewide analysis of publicly funded programs, assess what's working, and identify where Florida needs more providers and better coverage. This is a vital step toward a smarter, more accountable behavioral health system, and I can't think of a better institution situated to do that than the University of South Florida. And Dr. Law, thank you so much for your work. Your tenure here has been remarkable. I want to thank the members of the commission, including our chairman, Dr. Jay Reeves, my colleagues in the legislature for supporting me and this effort, and President Albritton for his continued support. I want to thank my House co-sponsor and fellow commission member, Representative Christine Hunchowski, and Governor DeSantis. Again, I thank you for signing this bill here today. Together, we're just not making policy. We're delivering real change and improving the lives of Floridians and their families. This bill is proof that good ideas, backed by data, infused with compassion, and driven by political will, can become real progress. Thank you for being here today and for signing this into law. Thank you, Mr. President, for the support that you've given the entire time we've served together in the legislature. And thank you, all of you, for your kindness and your support.
Good job.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Bradley. I'm state senator from District 6 up in North Florida. And what a special morning, an important morning for us to gather today. We talk about a lot of issues in Tallahassee, but mental health is a messy issue. It's a difficult issue, and it's an issue that oftentimes is hard to move the ball meaningfully because it takes a lot of resources. It involves the criminal justice system and our sheriffs on the ground. It involves our providers. 2 years ago was the first time I had the absolute pleasure and honor of meeting the Murphy family, Cindy and Dennis. I invited them to my Senate committee. I was then chair of Civil and Criminal Justice Appropriations, and we spent that committee, and DCF was there. Judge Leifman was there from Miami, and we talked about really what is the heart of the Tristan Murphy Act, and that is that difficult intersection between the criminal justice system and mental health. And we talked about the challenges and the roadblocks that people with mental illness, and it's not just the person with the mental illness, it's the family behind them that struggles to get them the resources to try to keep them out of the deep end of the criminal justice system, which is exactly what happened to Tristan Murphy with tragic consequences. So thank you to the Murphys. Thank you, Cindy, for being so brave and transparent. As Senator Albritton said, thank you for running to the fight. President Albritton, you never shy away from the fight. You never look away. But more importantly, you run to the fight with a servant's heart, with compassion. And that's what this needed. And you're so right. Jim DeFeedy's documentary on Warehoused really lays bare some of the challenges and some of the obstacles that we had to overcome. And without the sheriff's input in the Florida Sheriff's Association, none of this happens. Florida is a law and order state. And it's one of the things that I am so proud of. It's why I love living in the state of Florida with my family where we have our business. And the governor, there is no greater champion of law and order than Governor DeSantis. This is a law and order bill. This recognizes that those folks with mental illness, with serious mental illness, they need treatment, long-term recovery, and stability. That makes safer communities, stronger communities. This bill is a game changer. Judge Leifman described it as the most significant mental health legislation since the Baker Act, and I don't think he's wrong. It's very, very important legislation. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so thankful that the governor will be signing it. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Sheriff Purnell, the Murphys. Tristan could not have had better advocates and more love, and it's the next chapter for Tristan is the state of Florida, that it's a different place for those who are in his position. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate everybody that's been involved in these two bills. I know it's legislators ultimately have to get it teed up and passed, and we need a signature, but there's a lot of people that are not elected that are involved in this process that have offered a lot of feedback, and there's different things that we do in terms of being an elected office, and there's certain things that's like you either know like you do or not. Like, we have people that needed to be rescued. They either get back here or they don't, right? And so it's like, we can do it, we can guarantee. Have a hurricane, like Ian, we had to rebuild bridge, so we did that very quickly, and it's there. You see the bridge, you can go over it. When you're talking about mental health, there's there's not like a golden key to it. There's things and approaches, and you can do everything right, and maybe it still ends up not working. So it's difficult. And I think people can get frustrated and just throw up their hands and say, and I think what these bills show is that's not what Florida's doing. We've made a lot of progress. We understand it's a very difficult issue. We understand that there's a lot of different factors that go into this, but I think both of these bills will be very, very meaningful. And I also do want to again thank USF. I really appreciate what USF has done. I mean, the university has come a long way. I mean, when I was growing up in the area back in like the 80s and 90s to now, in terms of what they're doing, it's been really, really remarkable. And I think do we have the Gators coming here this football? What's the you're going to the Swamp? Okay. So do you play Miami this year? Oh, so you're on the road for both of them. Oh man. Okay. Well, we'll see. And is that the second game of the season for UF at UF? Yes. I didn't make the schedule. Well, I don't know who they're starting the season with, but it is a very, very, it would be considered a cupcake. And so then you have that one. No, it's not. You open. I'm saying, yeah, but Florida has somebody, and then USF comes to town. So, nevertheless, it'll be interesting to see how all that shakes out. I'll tell you, it's tough. I mean, with NIL and transferring and all this stuff. I mean, it used to just be Florida. All the Florida schools just kind of lock and load. The 80s and 90s, even beyond that, when you had the Urban Meyer years in Florida, and then it's like particularly in like the last 5 or 10 years. I mean, it's just so much is going on. There's a lot of moving parts. So but we're excited to be able to watch some of those games. Okay, well, why don't we make it official? So those who want to be a part of this, you guys come up. You can sit behind here. We'll get everybody staged, and we'll put the John Hancock on the bills. Got everyone in the picture that wants to be involved?
Keep shuffling down if you guys can. There we go. Keep going, keep going.
Okay. 1620. Today is the 25th of June. Am I right?
Yep,
Okay.
yes.
All right. SB 1620. Who wants one? Huh? Okay. Anybody else? Here. Okay, so there's 1620, and here's Senate Bill 168. Now, I know you guys are going to want one of these, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ben, you want one of these? Thank you. Okay. You guys want another one? Sure. Sheriff Permel, okay. I've also got, did you guys have enough? Do we have any other youth in the audience who may not want permanent? Anyone got any kids at home or brothers and sisters that want a non-permanent marker? All right. Anyone else? Okay. All right, here we go. It's official. All right, good job, guys. Thank you.
Shuffle off the stage this way.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yep, good job. Yep. Of course. All right, well, thanks, everyone. Take a question or two. Do we got anyone back there in the...
Engine facility being built right now in South Florida. A couple things. One is the report the state offers $20 million to the state land. The mayor of Miami gave one $190 million. Is there any chance to negotiate that at all? Also,
They've been working on it. I think that response is more posturing for the stuff. So, but this is actually, it's a Collier-Dade airport that's there. We use it for emergencies. It isn't like we're creating something new. It's a way to do this in conjunction with the federal government who's funding it in a way that is not going to have impacts on our broader community. When you have people, I mean, the sheriffs and the police chiefs, the jails, we can't have every illegal housed in our jails because we actually have non-illegals who need to be housed there when they commit crimes too. So if you're doing the immigration enforcement, and you're putting people, and there is a process to it, so they have to go. So if they're temporarily held, then they can be repatriated to their home country. That takes burdens away from the state of Florida and for Florida residents. But this has been an airport there that I think our goal is, if we do buy it, we will probably eventually just eliminate it and try to let the Everglades grow over it. But it's been there for a while and it's been used, and so we had a request from the federal government to do it, and so Alligator Alcatraz it is. And so you will see that be done. You will have, it'll be a force multiplier. It'll help DHS. It'll help our state and local law enforcement with relieving some burden on resources. We'll probably also do something similar up at Camp Blanding, which is where our National Guard headquarters to train there. We have some capacity there. So Kevin Guthrie, Division of Emergency Management, are working on that. So we'll have a formal announcement on both of those very, very quickly.
Also, what about the environmental concerns? Some people think it's going to hurt.
There's zero environmental. I mean, you're talking about the guy that's plowed how much money into Everglades restoration? Why would I want to do anything that would do? In fact, Ben Albritton and I had to fight to get Everglades fully funded. The original House budget print in the Florida House cut $500 million out of Everglades restoration. I called for, we did $1 billion more my first 4 years than the previous 4. We're exceeding that by leaps and bounds in these 4. And it's made a difference. We're going to be doing the ribbon cutting for the C-43 reservoir over on the western side of Lake Okeechobee. Huge project. We did the stormwater treatment part of the EAA reservoir ahead of schedule, which is south of Lake Okeechobee. We did the C-44 reservoir. The feds haven't done their part on that, and they haven't done their part on the southern part of the reservoir. We've got a lot of resources in the budget to continue the momentum. So we will do it. It will have zero impact. This is an airport that's already there. Clearly, from a security perspective, if someone escapes, there's a lot of alligators you're going to have to contend. No one's going anywhere, once you do that. It's as safe and secure as you can be. And it's just like we do in storms and hurricanes. It isn't like we're going to start doing permanent sewer and all. It's all temporary. We set it up. We break it down. This isn't the first rodeo. This thing's been used a bunch of times over many, many years. And so the impact will be zero. And that's in keeping with our policy to do really historic Everglades restoration. I think people are they're trying to use the Everglades as a pretext just for the fact that they oppose immigration enforcement. I mean, let's be clear. That's where you are on the far left now. They don't want the laws enforced at all, and you're seeing that with some of the demonstrations and some of the other things. And you have a right to have that view, but that is not the policy of the United States of America. That is not the policy of the state of Florida. So I think the capacity that will be added there will help the overall national mission. It will also relieve some burdens off our state and local folks who are required to participate under the law that we passed in the special session at the beginning of the year. And remember, I called for that special session right on the heels of President Trump's, actually before his inauguration, because we knew this was going to be a front burner issue. We knew we had to lead the way. And particularly the leadership in the House of Representatives really fought us on that and initially said, oh, it's premature. We can just deal with it in the regular session. First of all, that would have been many months later, and that would have lost time. Second of all, it would not have gotten done in the regular session. I can tell you that. Had we not called that special session, the immigration legislation, which now President Trump's administration is telling other states to emulate, that would not have gotten done. And so it's important that we're leading the way on this. I think it's going to ultimately be the case that other states start to follow through a little bit more like Florida is. But I'll tell you, I thought you'd have a lot of states lining up immediately right after we did our legislation, and you didn't really have it as much. And I think maybe it's just people got confused about what was being done in Florida because there was static in the system at that time with the opposition. But eventually the plane landed, and so this will be. But this is fully funded by the federal government. So I'm a big believer that we need to enforce our laws. The resources that we've brought to bear on doing things like that, like for example, on helping supplement the Coast Guard's interdiction efforts off our coasts. Now, it's not as much here in the Tampa Bay area, but if you go down Jupiter, Palm Beach, the Keys, you'll have people running boats. Illegals will come in boats from Haiti, from Cuba, from Bahamas, and I can tell you when we interdict those, there are sometimes drugs, there's sometimes explosives, there's sometimes firearms. So that's obviously not something we want people coming illegally, getting dumped on our coast and then bringing a bunch of contraband. So we did Operation Vigilant Sentry, a year or two ago. And we've been, just because of Florida's efforts, we've turned 18,000 illegals over the Coast Guard for repatriation during that time. And so that requires us to expend resources, but I think that is very well spent. Would you rather have had those 18,000 wash up on the shores of Florida? And even if they don't mean any harm, then you're responsible basically, and they become public charges effectively, which is not what we want either. So I'm somebody that I think it's a good use. If you're a law and order state, that's across the board. But on this mission, this is something that was requested by the federal government, and this is something that the federal government is going to fully fund. And so from a state taxpayer perspective, we are implementing it. We have guys that are going to be doing the work and the logistics because we're very good at that, but that will be fully reimbursed by the federal government. Okay, thanks everybody. God bless.